Good morning. Good morning. How are we all? It appears that we have a very strange thing going on. And one thing you have to understand is I know exactly what's going on, and I also have absolutely no idea what's going on. It's a very strange place to live. There is a tension between, I guess it's like the rational and the subconscious. I know what I have done. I know where I've been. I know the times that I will be there. I am led by something that I trust and something holy. It's hitting a point. And also I believe that women have an extraordinarily high level of power over men that has not been very clearly defined. And it's not. Yeah, it's not in person. It's not like a pheromone. It's like there's something else going on. Anyway. So the next couple of days are going to be interesting. and I hope you all enjoy this glimpse into something I believe that has traditionally been kept private. Private thing. Privacy's good. And I suppose, in this case, not privacy is good, and so on and so forth. So I'm in a strange predicament where my intention is to resort back to a baseline non-digital interact. I don't want to interact with anything digital, and I don't really want to drive cars because they're all chewed in. And that's not a sacrifice. That's exactly what I want to do. It's actually what most people aspire to do, and it's actually way easier and cheaper than you would ever believe. And so there is a strange, unsettled reality that where people are not doing the thing that they want to do because they think there's some type of really long pathway between where they are now and what they want to do. But really it's like peer pressure. It's like everyone is doing this thing, like everyone is strolling into the digital casino, and everything you want is outside that digital casino. I just seem to have had, I don't know, another, this is if you want to call it God or the universe or, I don't know, Hollywood. No, I don't think it's Hollywood, but I think Hollywood might be involved. But I think it's God or the universe has another plan for me, and I'm happy to help using all my skills in that capacity to the highest level that there would be. But it means that I'm going to be representing the baseline rather than the extreme. I'm representing the extreme in like a different way, and I would not recommend going that way because it's dangerous. It's incredibly dangerous. You will almost certainly end up in jail, and you will almost certainly end up probably dead. Like there's a lot of thought needs to be put in. There's a lot of just a lot of deep negotiations. There's like thousands, maybe 10,000 hours of negotiation. So it's not, I don't know what drives me to do this. I wouldn't recommend it, but it's up to you. What was I going to say? Yeah, I want to represent the baseline. the baseline of what should be being represented in a property ownership, freehold ownership model of a country. You're supposed to be able to buy a piece of land and then, have skills. Your skills are not supposed to be taxed. You're not supposed to be a target because you are a skilled person. And this is what this socialist system has created. If you wish to use your skills that you've paid for and earned and developed and and utilized, and you have property and you own that, and there's no connections, like you are being attacked by a digital casino that's being built on our periphery, and that just isn't acceptable. And so it puts us in a funny position where it's like, I don't want to be a politician. I don't want to be in politics. Politics is what caused this, but the baseline of Australian, and I think in the world as well, because this is a globalization problem. This is linked in with globalization, and our countries are being treated as airports instead of countries by the global powers, and that's just not acceptable. They can have an airport, they can have a shopping mall, and they can have a casino, but the minute that they start playing like they own the fucking place, then people need to fucking die or surrender. That's the only fucking options. So politically, the baseline of this country needs protecting. I'm pretty capable of doing that, and I'd like to do that. So I'm going to have to run for some type of election. But what you should know is that this is like me playing a video game. You don't have to be political in this sense. This political system has been swallowed up by a digital casino. That is not the grounds. And so I actually, like, in my stance of returning to my property or my father's estate and living there, under the same conditions that anyone would have lived in pre-1901, I will live there. And the only reason I'm entering your casino is to politically represent the people not in the fucking casino. And you will find that this representation will, drastically affect all of your equations that you are using to fool the masses of Australia and of the world. So have fun with that. Enjoy your complex exposure, declaration of crimes, financial crimes, legal crimes, political crimes, all of them. They're all going to be exposed by this, because it is going to expose the baseline rather than, the aspirational, the ultra aspirational. I have that covered it seems, in another arena, which is, pretty substantial. So I'm going to keep that there. But as far as my personal finances or my personal, transport or my personal wardrobe, or any of those, it's like, well, I'm covering, well and truly the baseline of this country. Any man should be able to go and buy a property, buy a horse, and start building a house. And, if he's bothered by the casino, then the casino will be bothered by me. So I will expect, I'll run for a seat that I'll decide. I'm going to discuss my options, hopefully with the members of the Liberal Party, because if I was in a casino, I would be a member of the Liberal Party. Okay, my intention is to bring the Liberal Party and the country back from the casino back to where where I don't need to create these complex complex dictations on the status of my actions. One being a video game. So as soon as I go in and run for that, that is a video game. It's a casino. I'm going to run for the seat in the casino, weirdly, like a seat at a poker table, I suppose. I'm going to then represent them. You're going to pay me the same as you pay all the other people in that casino at that table, and I'm going to play my hand, with my non-casino situation. My example, is going to have to be plugged into the casino. And this means everything. It means I don't intend on having a car. No, I don't want a car to come and pick me up. I don't want any of these things, because I don't think, this is exposing the fact the assumption of our parliament across, all the way back to Westminster, and spreading out all over the world, is that anyone worthwhile lives in the city, and so that they can participate in parliamentary process. But this doesn't make sense, because countries like Australia is huge, is massive. All the opportunity is miles and miles and miles away from any capital city, and we have this technology here to utilize to our full potential. And I shouldn't be held back, by being forced to rub shoulders in the physical landscape with a bunch of coffee drinking bloated bureaucrats. So I will not, unless it's on very special occasions, I will not physically represent myself in the parliament. I will digitally represent myself in the parliament, considering the majority of remuneration and paying of bills and also information. We've proven that the government distributed a harmful vaccination policy over the internet majoritively. And so if you can do that, I can represent my constituency, which is everyone that wishes to live in the baseline physical reality and not wander the hallways of pokey machines, being lured into perpetual gambling by, no windows, high oxygen levels, and flashing lights. So this will be accepted. This will be the status quo. This will be, this will ricochet all the way through our system back to Westminster, rattle around the House of Lords for a little while, probably, spend a moment in Buckingham Palace having tea with the King. And then, perhaps at the end of the day, we're going to have some type of social order that firmly understands the baseline minimum and the fantastical fucking digital, economic delusion at the top. And perhaps once this is restabilized on those conditions, then we can begin to actually, have some influence over the betterment of people's lives, which is basically what everyone would declare that they are doing in the parliament to begin with. So, yeah, it just is not feasible for me to ride my horse in for an hour to sit in parliament to discuss the goings on of a hyper-focused urban, ultra-urban, digital delusion, economic insanity cohort that has already stolen the oxygen from everyone else. So you will learn to integrate this model into your system, and then once this model is integrated, then we will see a burgeoning distributed governance and political scene across the country. And this means that some of the deteriorated areas of that have the reason they've been deteriorated is because they've had international influence for hundreds of years. So there's been people managing the land from another country, from in a city, from under a wig, or under a fluorescent light in a bank office, and that just doesn't make sense. And so there's we need to cut this. It's like that we already had this. The precedent of pre-Civil War England was the aristocracy lived out of London. They would attend London to discuss things and to be entertained, and that made sense because you had to. It wasn't a thing as the internet. You had to either bring people to your estate, or you had to go to London where all the lights and dramatic people were, and plays and churches and all these things. So it's about time that we flip the coin on that, and that we return order to the majority of the holding, to the majority of the geographical land base, and that we clearly set that example for the rest of the world, so that we don't all get swallowed by some type of digital monster. It's going to be fun. I'm happy to fit in with schedules and do those things, and also bring a higher level of presentation. I've utilized the full length and breadth of my dramatic capabilities to try and make this entertaining, because there's a lot of content. You know what I mean? If I'm going to subject administrative staff to this amount of administrative burden, I'm going to try and make it entertaining, and I hope I've done that. And I also hope that with the use of AI, that streamlines the process of going through my my opposition for the last 6 years. But we seem to be landing in what would you call it? What would a technician call it? The what do they refer to it as? The synchro. They call it the. Oh, I've gone blank. What do they call it? We've hit the. Anyway, there's a word that the tech people use to describe the harmonious integration of technology and man. And yeah, my personal opinion of that is that we already have that. And so it's a bit like bringing a calculator into a it's a bit like bringing a Game Boy on a roller coaster. That's what I feel like this AI is. Okay, imagine you bring a Game Boy and you play a roller coaster game on a Game Boy while riding a roller coaster at a theme park. Pretty weird thing to do. So it's amazing that it took the world by storm and that so many people did it. But nevertheless, I think there is a hypnotic quality to the handheld moving digital device, which is basically what Scale Matters is. So once we prove that, then we can prove that, well, this is an addiction case. It's a case of mass addiction to a device that was, misunderstood. And I find the further disconnected you get. So I'm talking to a laptop sitting on top of a container of coloured textures just to set the scene. And so that is already better. And it's like, it's only a few steps back to get to a Scale Matters device. Although there is a quality to doing this type of stuff, like getting all your best angles in a perpetual fucking one-shot take of your wonder. But it's a type of hypnosis, so we've got to step back. We've got to keep stepping back. We're going to be like, you got to stand on your own 2 feet. And yeah, I mean, if anyone wants to join in, if anyone wants to, plan a year in advance to head back to your father's historical homeland and live as a homeless person for 3 weeks to expose the shortcomings of the first casino to be established in Australia, and then simultaneously, synchronize that with the Danish royal visit, and then attempt to. I'm actually going to say this. I'm not going to say attempt to steal. It's like, and then be, swept off my feet by the Queen of Denmark in some type of, elaborate courting ritual in which she's stolen my heart away from my current girlfriend, and is attempting, I guess, to colonize my heart and body for her, hopefully, good deeds towards, I guess, Australia and Denmark. Yeah, matters of the heart, eh? It's. I don't know what she's done to me. She's hypnotized me with her Danish magic, and her Tasmanian magic is beating in time with my Tasmanian heart, and all that kind of thing. But I'm a helpless leaf floating in the breeze. I'm just but I do have enough capacity to notice which way I'm heading, and who is responsible for that. So yeah. What a wacky world that we live in, but I think it's going to be positive. Also, just want to note that you should know So Australia is very weird. It was going to be intended that there was going to be the same kind of aristocracy, landed gentleman like protocol that we have in Britain was going to be brought here. It wasn't brought here because we had such a large labor force and such a multicultural, there's some type of experimental design has been attempted. And so weirdly, it is put in an inordinate, is that the word? Anyway, a big word, amount of pressure on the established elite aristocracy that was going to be done, but we're not given anything. So if you were stimulated into this, you've had the largest job to do with absolutely no resources. And it looks like that experiment has actually paid off, because we are competing with European monarchies that are the opposite to that. They have, no responsibility and tons of resources, and they just can't compete. But the importance of a monarchy is astronomical. It is. It's the wall that's being graffitied, and to look at it any other way, and it is silly. It's like if you have a wall, and you have a graffiti on the wall, it's like this is the best way to understand what the balance is between the monarchy and Parliament. The monarchy came first. The Parliament has gotten very good, very successful. They're not just graffitiing on the wall; they're graffitiing like in the bedrooms of the royals, of the monarchy. So that's pretty aggressive. But then the monarchy basically in this moment is saying, and this is all monarchies across the fucking world, okay? It's basically like, well, if the king or the queen doesn't have the fucking privacy of their own bedroom, and there is a bunch of fucking vandals graffitiing inside their bedroom and filming it with fucking iPhones, then what hope do any of you have of ever achieving, a modicum of fucking privacy in your own bedrooms? Basically, that's it. You're in the bedroom now, it seems, well, close enough. And where do you go from there? Are you going to Bolsheviks up and shoot us in our bedroom in our passionate embrace, or are you going to step back and realize the error of your ways? Perhaps put the phone away for a moment, put the spray can away, and firmly remove yourself from the walls. Because there's two ways to look at it. You can look at a wall. You can say there's people in that wall, and they're controlling us. I'm going to graffiti it. And I'm going to keep graffitiing it, telling my children to graffiti it, and graffiti. Start calling it street art, and then just keep graffitiing until the point. And it's like, or you can say, I might just build my own fucking wall. You know what I mean? And then just assume maybe that those people don't have my worst interests in mind, but perhaps they have my best interests in mind. But for them to protect themselves so that they can complete the action, the work that provides me with betterment, with improvement, they need to have a wall, and I should respect their wall if I want to in turn. See, it's a conundrum from the beginning. If you do not respect the walls of others, how do you ever expect them to improve your lot for you to establish your own walls? And people, like, if you think of the use of blocking, which I got sent to jail because of the irresponsible use of this online blocking, which doesn't exist. Blocking is, blocking blocks. You lay blocks to build a fucking wall. Okay, did you register the wall? Did you get an engineering thing? Did you build the walls? Is it all of a sudden you can use one fucking click of a button and you all of a sudden have a moat and a castle wall around yourself? So you can hurl fucking cannonballs and flaming fucking oil-filled sludge at your enemies. Pretty interesting way to think about it, okay? So it's like there's nothing wrong with the walls, but that there should be some labor required. because that means it kind of balances itself out. If it takes tons of labor and money and time to build, a very sufficient, very stable wall, you have to respect that wall. You have to respect it at the level that it is put up. This is how the physical world was governed, okay? And the majority of the because you can imagine people wandering in and then being, the security being whatever. And it's like, so this is the problem. It's like a social media block, especially if utilized by our politicians, is so illegal. It is the most absurd thing you could ever imagine. If you truly understand Magna Carta and its influence over the monarchy and its role, and then the monarchy's representation as a high point, but it really wasn't a high point. That's the wrong way to think of it. That's how it's described by the socialists and by the communists. It's not the high point. It's actually the low point. It's the base minimum. That's what I'm protecting. The base minimum. You can buy a piece of land, which we collectively protect with our military under the crown, okay? Then you are able to improve that land and live on it, unimpeded by any type of governmental organizations that wish to do it. So that is it. So there's always room for improvements, but the baseline needs to be protected. That's what the monarchy does. That is what it does. And we haven't had enough flow throughout the monarchies. We haven't had enough basically revolutions or overthrowing because the politicians have just slowly been chipping away at their walls until they get inside their bedrooms. So, and that's the politicians doing it collectively, and their false claim to represent all the people and liberate them from the evil king. But it's like, well, what the fuck power does the king have if you're already all sitting around in his bedroom watching the goings on of his life in a never-ending fucking stream daily, and he has to represent himself daily just to protect the baseline minimum, which is, what everyone aspires to. And so if that baseline minimum ends up being worse than being fucking absolutely poor, because it's like there's work. You can be poor. You could be literally sitting in jail and they will hand deliver you food in our system. You can sit there and then we claim you don't have freedom. Well, it's like we don't have freedom in this system if you have to, daily present a protest and stand your ground against intrusion by a socialist government system. And you wait till you see it's a little property an hour away from Perth with a fucking rundown, dilapidated fucking house in it. It's not it's not Buckingham Palace. It's the baseline. Now with my skill set, with my capacity, with my, all these things, I can turn it into something wonderful. I have no doubt in my mind, and I'm not in a hurry. But if I can't protect that, then what good am I protecting anything else? It shows that there's a flaw with our Governor-General system because the Governor-General steps in and is basically a tenant in a house that they don't own and that they don't represent and they haven't had to build. It's the opposite of the king. And if there isn't a proper translation, if we don't trust the flow between the monarch, the true monarch, King Charles III, and the Governor-General, then there is a serious problem. I would far rather our government be represented by a Governor-General that is on his own fucking wicket, representing the true and hard and fast reality of the baseline minimum of what all Australians are promised once they can establish themselves on a piece of property, which is a lot cheaper than you would think, especially if you stretch yourself out a little bit away from the fucking glowing neon fucking light and you understand that, all things are accessible. You just might need to dig a little bit deeper and find out how exactly you are going to claim yourself a little bit of Australia on freehold terms. It's like, this is it. And you're doing this in a wonderful environment where you have a distributed international network that is amazingly capable of you representing yourself in our political system. But we need to get to the constraints. I'm not being shipped from, because I'm like this right now. This is, I could probably do it, but I've had thoughts about, buying, a piece of coastland that's degraded near a piece of degraded agricultural land with no roads, no anything. That's kind of what I'd like to do. How the fuck what am I supposed to ride a horse to the bus stop and then get on the thing and then, hour-long journey to get to Parliament and then fly over to fucking Canberra. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Our government was governed pre-federation from England, with a month journey on ship minimum, with letters, and then a month back. So it's 2 month minimum. It's like, how can we not manage this here and now? Like, when that is clearly the precedent. And this is what everyone's going to start understanding, that we're being governed by a bunch of fucking tech lunatic nerds with Apple Watches whipping us in our fucking cerebral cortexes by never-ending and perpetual digital fucking stimulus, so that we do as we're fucking told and shuffle neatly, with adequate spacing in and out of the fucking casino. That's not a government. It's not a country. It's not a world that I want to fucking live in. And I will perpetually fucking defend the base minimum of anyone who agrees. That portion of the world, and that portion especially of Australia, is very large. And so those are the people that I'm representing. So I need to decide. If the Liberal Party doesn't get back to me, I'll create a new party, and it'll be called the fucking Home Base Party or something like that. It'll be called like Terra Firma. Terra Firma, or it'll be called Terra Australis. Not the other one, not the one that means free, that open land. It's like, no. I protect all people, especially Aboriginal people in this. You know what I mean? Because they don't live in they don't even live in our 2 month ship journey letter writing, lords and ladies. They don't live there, so they certainly shouldn't be forced to live in the 24/7 fucking Starbucks digital casino. They live on terra firma, whether they call it that or not. They call it whatever they call it. And so we need to start representing this. There needs to be it's a really simple trick that you've played. And this is the thing. It's like, why are we doing this? Well, because in the opportunity where it wasn't, you fully went to war with the obvious solution to protect your ultra-urban, ultra-bureaucratical control systems. You already did it. You've already been proven absolutely guilty of gross negligence to adequately adapting the country and the world to the new technology. And the reason you've done that is because you never assumed that the new technology might enable a reflection on the older iterative technologies. And perhaps there might be a mass rejection of a huge chunk of technological advancements, especially once the firm grounding of literal terra firma was re-established as a baseline minimum in our political system, and that we utilize these technological wonders and these advancements to adequately govern across, the wide range of land. The thing that has literally led to the destruction of all previous empires around the world and throughout time. So if you would like our empire to not deteriorate into hell, into Mad Max, and you might think that's wonderful, it's not. You know what I mean? I'll give you a preview of it. Unless you're fucking 6 foot fucking tall, and have 600 guns, you're dead or a fucking sex slave within about 10 minutes. So you don't want that. Civilization is a wonderful umbrella to be under. Otherwise, why would the Queen of Denmark place it all over her shirt? With those beautiful buttons at the front that could be just unbuttoned one by one if I had my way. But it's wonderful under our umbrella. We suggest you don't leave. We just would like to, to vacuum the floor. We have no intention of having ultra governance. We'd love and would love to continue our low touch, low influence thing that's going on. And we hope in time you'll understand the firm baseline that has been protected by all monarchies across the entire globe in the moment of collective communist digital frenzy. And we hope you appreciate the dramatic and kind of simulated response rather than a physical, violent response, to which I can guarantee you are not prepared nor ready and would inevitably fail in your attempts. So that's a mouthful. I'll wait patiently to hear from the Liberal Party and from the Parliament and from the Prime Minister and from the Governor General in their thoughts to how we can proceed. But yeah, apart from that, I wish you all the best, and I hope you enjoy the show for the next couple of days, as I somehow mysteriously a year ago make my way from here in Kingsley to Hobart. And perhaps, I don't know, maybe I've put enough vibes out for the Queen to pick up on with her astronomically well heightened senses. Thank you.